اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم الحمد للہ رب العالمین الرحمن الرحیم مالک یوم الدین ایاک نعبد و ایاک نستعین اہدنا الصراط المستقیم صراط الذین انعمت علیہم غیر المغضوب علیہم ولا الضالین اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد۔ کربلا ملک نہیں، قوم نہیں، شہر نہیں۔ کربلا ملک نہیں، قوم نہیں، شہر نہیں۔ کربلا چشمہ عرفاں ہے، فقط نہر نہیں۔ کربلا جبر نہیں، ظلم نہیں، قہر نہیں۔ کربلا فرقہ پرستی کی کوئی لہر نہیں۔ کربلا دہر میں ہر دین کا سرتاج ہوئی۔ کربلا دہر میں ہر دین کا سرتاج ہوئی۔ عرش والوں کو اسی فرش پہ معراج ہوئی۔ بآواز بلند صلوات۔ آ جاؤ اب آ جاؤ، اب آ جاؤ سکینہ، آ جاؤ اب آ جاؤ، اب آ جاؤ سکینہ۔ بانوں کی صدا تھی کہ نہ تڑ پاؤ سکینہ، آ جاؤ اب آ جاؤ۔ اب مجھ سے جدائی کا لوں اٹھ نہ سکے گا، اب مجھ سے جدائی کا لوں اٹھ نہ سکے گا۔ یوں روٹھ کے مادر سے نہ تم جاؤ سکینہ، آ جاؤ اب آ جاؤ۔ پھر پیار سے ماں کہہ کے پکارو میری دلبر، پھر پیار سے ماں کہہ کے پکارو میری دلبر۔ اماں کو نہ اس طرح سے تڑ پاؤ سکینہ، آ جاؤ اب آ جاؤ۔ اب مجھ سے جدائی کا لوں اٹھ نہ سکے گا، اب مجھ سے جدائی کا لوں اٹھ نہ سکے گا۔ یوں روٹھ کے مادر سے نہ تم جاؤ سکینہ، آ جاؤ اب آ جاؤ۔ بند آنکھیں ہیں پھیلائے ہوئے، ہاتھ کھڑی ہوں، بند آنکھیں ہیں پھیلائے ہوئے، ہاتھ کھڑی ہوں، آ کر میری آغوش میں سو جاؤ سکینہ، آ جاؤ اب آ جاؤ۔ اصغر کی جدائی علی اکبر کی جدائی، اصغر کی جدائی علی اکبر کی جدائی، کافی ہے نہ تم بھی مجھے رلواؤ سکینہ، آ جاؤ اب آ جاؤ، اب آ جاؤ سکینہ، بانوں کی صدا تھی کہ نہ تڑپاؤ سکینہ، آ جاؤ، بآواز بلند صلوات۔ اب میں علی سے درخواست کروں گا کہ وہ آ کے اپنا سلام پیش کریں۔ علی، بآواز بلند تر صلوات۔
صلوات۔ اب مجھے کوئی سکینہ نہیں کہتا بابا، اب مجھے کوئی سکینہ نہیں کہتا بابا، قیدی کہتا ہے کوئی یتیم بابا، اب مجھے کوئی سکینہ نہیں کہتا بابا، میں بیاں کیسی کروں اپنی مصیبت تم سے، کیا کروں اپنے تماچوں کی شکایت تم سے، سنتی ہوں دادی نے کھایا تماچا بابا، اب مجھے کوئی سکینہ نہیں کہتا بابا، نیل رخساروں پہ بینائی بھی جس کی کم ہو، عمر ہو 4 برس اور کمر میں خم ہو، آپ نے دیکھی ہے کیا ایسی ضعیفہ بابا، اب مجھے کوئی سکینہ نہیں کہتا بابا، میری آنکھوں سے بھی جاتی تھی آنسو اس دم، ہاتھ بھی میں نے لگایا نہیں، ہاتھ بھی میں نے لگایا نہیں، دادی کی قسم دینا چاہتا تھا مجھے لوگوں نے صدقہ بابا، اب مجھے کوئی سکینہ نہیں کہتا بابا، قیدی کہتا ہے کوئی یتیمہ بابا، اب مجھے کوئی سکینہ نہیں کہتا بابا۔ صلوات۔
بارے دیگر بلند تر سلام۔ مولا حسین کی جنگ کی منظر کشی کرتے ہوئے میر تکلم کے اشعار کا ایک بند آپ کی گوش گزار کہ ہو گئی جنگ پہ آمادہ خدا کی قدرت، ہو گئی جنگ پہ آمادہ خدا کی قدرت، غیث کو دے کے جگہ ہٹ گئی پیچھے رحمت، غیث کو دے کے جگہ ہٹ گئی پیچھے رحمت، پیار سے بات کی لیکن نہیں سمجھی امت، 6 مہینے سے بہت شور تھا بیعت بیعت، ارے تیغ میدان میں جب ابن علی تولے گا، کوئی بیعت تو کجا بے بھی نہیں بولے گا۔ بآواز بلند صلوات۔ اب میں جناب محسن ندیم صاحب سے درخواست کروں گا کہ اب وہ آ کے سلام پیش کریں۔ جناب محسن ندیم صاحب، بآواز بلند صلوات۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد، باری السلام۔ اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد۔ ماں کہتی تھی اٹھ جاگ، میری جان سکینہ، ماں کہتی تھی اٹھ جاگ، میری جان سکینہ، اٹھ گھر کو چلے کھل گیا زندان سکینہ، ماں کہتی تھی اٹھ جاگ، میری جان سکینہ، بندے جو تیرے شمر نے چھینے وہ دلا دوں، ایک ننھی سی چادر میں تیرے سر پہ اڑا دوں، گھر جانے کا اب ہو گیا سامان سکینہ، ماں کہتی تھی اٹھ جاگ، میری جان سکینہ، ایک بار میرے سینے سے لگ جا ذرا اٹھ کر، کہتی تھی یہ ماں قبر سکینہ سے لپٹ کر، کچھ دیر کے ہیں ہم تیرے مہمان سکینہ، ماں کہتی تھی اٹھ جاگ میری جان سکینہ، رونے کی صدا آتی ہے زندان سے اکثر، مر کے بھی رہائی نہ ملی ہے جسے اختر، سنسان ہے سنسان سا ہے آج کیوں زندان سکینہ، ماں کہتی تھی اٹھ جاگ میری جان سکینہ۔ پڑھ دیجیے صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد۔
ماشاءاللہ محسن، اب میں درخواست کروں گا جناب مہتاب حیدر صاحب سے کہ وہ آ کے سلام پیش کریں۔ جناب مہتاب حیدر، باوضع بلند صلوات۔
ایک نعرہ صلوات پڑھ دیں حضرات۔ تو چند شعر سے آغاز کرتا ہوں، اس کے بعد 2-3 بند مرثیے کے۔ کہا حسین نے جاؤ کوئی گیا بھی نہیں، کہا حسین نے جاؤ کوئی گیا بھی نہیں، غلط نہیں ہے جو کہہ دوں کوئی ہلا بھی نہیں، ارے ستم کو لاکھ ستم کر کے کچھ ملا بھی نہیں، جھکانا چاہا تھا جو سر وہ سر جھکا بھی نہیں، اور اسے نصیب ہے آغوش شاہ کا منبر، اسے نصیب ہے آغوش شاہ کا منبر، عجب خطیب ہے اصغر جو بولتا بھی نہیں، اور جگر کو تھام کے فوج یزید رونے لگی، جگر کو تھام کے فوج یزید رونے لگی، کمال یہ ہے کہ اصغر نے کچھ کہا بھی نہیں، کمال یہ ہے کہ اصغر نے کچھ کہا بھی نہیں، اور عجب یہ شان عبادت ہے اے زہیر و سعید، عجب یہ شان عبادت ہے اے زہیر و سعید، نماز ہو گئی سجدے میں سر رکھا بھی نہیں، نماز ہو گئی سجدے میں سر رکھا بھی نہیں۔ اور یہ آخری شعر کہ علی کی بیٹی نے خطبوں سے وہ جہاد کیا، علی کی بیٹی نے خطبوں سے وہ جہاد کیا، کوئی مرا بھی نہیں اور کوئی بچا بھی نہیں، کوئی مرا بھی نہیں اور کوئی بچا بھی نہیں۔ ایک صلوات پڑھ دیں حضرات۔ بی بی سکینہ کے حوالے سے 2-3 بند جلدی جلدی۔ ایک نعرہ صلوات۔ یہ کہہ کے ستم کر رہے تھے ستمگر، سکینہ کو سرور بہت چاہتے تھے، یہ کہہ کے ستم کر رہے تھے ستمگر، سکینہ کو سرور بہت چاہتے تھے، ارے کرو ظلم جی بھر کہ اس غم زدہ پر، سکینہ کو سرور بہت چاہتے تھے، یہ کہہ کے ستم بہت چاہتے تھے اسے اس کے بابا، کہتے تھے اس کو سکون اپنے دل کا، وہ کہتے تھے اس کو سکون اپنے دل کا۔ یہ سوتی تھی بابا کے سینے کے اوپر، سکینہ کو سرور بہت چاہتے تھے۔ اگر نیند آئے تو سونے نہ دینا، اسے اس کے بابا پہ رونے نہ دینا، اسے اس کے بابا پہ رونے نہ دینا۔ سکون اس کو ملنے نہ پائے گھڑی بھر، سکینہ کو سرور بہت چاہتے تھے۔ یہ بھولے کبھی نہ ستم اتنا ڈھاؤ، یتیمی کا احساس اس کو دلاؤ، یتیمی کا احساس اس کو دلاؤ۔ ارے ستم کی حدیں پار کر ڈالو اس پر، سکینہ کو سرور بہت چاہتے تھے۔ یہ آخری بند ہے کہ بھری مشک پانی کس کو دکھاؤ، بھری مشک پانی کس کو دکھاؤ، اسے یاد اس کے چچا کی دلاؤ، اسے یاد اس کے چچا کی دلاؤ۔ ارے نہ دو اس کو پانی، بہا دو زمین پر، سکینہ کو سرور بہت چاہتے تھے۔ یہ کہہ کے ستم کر رہے تھے ستمگر، سکینہ کو سرور بہت چاہتے تھے۔ نعرہ صلوات۔
بی بی سکینہ کے مصائب کا سلسلہ، اسی ذیل میں دو اشعار، دو بند۔ چل بسے حضرت عباس تو محشر تھا بپا، چل بسے حضرت عباس تو محشر تھا بپا، گر گئی خاک پہ خود زینب مستر کی ردا، آتی تھی خیمہ شبیر سے ماتم کی صدا، تھی سکینہ کی فغاں ہائے چچا ہائے چچا، بولی وہ مرحمت حیدر ثانی بھی گئی، سات اموں کے میری تشنہ دہانی بھی گئی۔ بچے کہتے تھے کہ اب کون بچائے گا ہمیں، لا کے اب کوئی بھی پانی نہ پلائے گا ہمیں، جب تماچے کوئی بے دین لگائے گا ہمیں، کون آغوش میں اب اپنی چھپائے گا ہمیں۔ آب شیریں نہ دمے تشنہ دہانی مانگا، آب شیریں نہ دمے تشنہ دہانی مانگا، پھر کسی سے بھی سکینہ نے بھی نہ پانی مانگا۔ بآواز بلند صلوات۔ اب میں جناب بابر مہدی صاحب سے درخواست کروں گا کہ واقع سلام پیش کریں۔ جناب بابر مہدی، بر محمد و آل محمد بلند تر صلوات۔
دودھ بڑی محمد و آل محمد۔ میری زنجیر نہ کھینچو، سکینہ جاگ جائے گی، میری زنجیر نہ کھینچو، سکینہ جاگ جائے گی، مچاؤ شور نہ لوگو، سکینہ جاگ جائے گی، میری زنجیر نہ کھینچو، سکینہ جاگ جائے گی۔ اگر اولاد والے ہو تمہیں یہ سب پتہ ہوگا، ادھوری نیند سے اٹھ جائے جو بچی تو کیا ہوگا، خدا را شمر کو روکو، سکینہ جاگ جائے گی، میری زنجیر نہ کھینچو، سکینہ جاگ جائے گی۔ کبھی بچی کو تکتا ہے، کبھی آنسو بچاتا ہے، درے زندان پر بیٹھا مسافر سب سے کہتا ہے، ذرا آرام سے گزرو، سکینہ جاگ جائے گی، ابھی زندان میں ہو جائے گا کوہرام پھر برپا، وہ آہٹ سن کے سمجھے گی کہ شاید یا گئے بابا، درے زندان نہ کھولو، سکینہ جاگ جائے گی، یہ وعدہ ہے میرا پانی نہیں مانگوں گا میں تم سے، وہ جب اٹھ جائے تو جی بھر کے بے کش مارنا درے، ابھی بے کس کو نہ مارو، سکینہ جاگ جائے گی، سرے زندان سکینہ کو قضا کی نیند کیا آئی، किसी से कुछ नहीं कहता है इस मज़लूम का भाई कि अब ये डर नहीं उसको सकीना जाग जाएगी। मेरी जंजीर ना खींचो सकीना जाग जाएगी। दुरूद मोहम्मद वाले
माशाल्लाह वाह भाई। अब मैं मुअद्दबाना गुजारिश करूँगा जनाब आगा सुलेमान से कि वो आके मस्जिद से खिताब फरमाए बावाज़ बुलंद सलवात।
Suratul Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الهداة المهديين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، فقد قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we begin today's majlis, I would like to request a Surah Fatiha for the following marhumeen: Marhum Sayyid Sardar Ahmad Jafari, Ashrafun Nisa Begum bint Hamid Hussain, and Shadab Fatima bint Ijaz Hussain. Also for all of your own marhumeen and for the deceased members of our community, ulama and shuhada of Islam. Suratul Fatiha masbuqatan bis salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. ما صل على محمد وآل محمد. Yesterday we began a brief look at verse 110 of Surah Al-Imran, in which Allah says to us, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. Every ummah has an existence. And this is itself a very important reminder for us, because our secular materialist society only recognizes our individual existence and not our existence as a community. The reality is that we do have an individual existence, and our personality, our wants, our preferences, they are unique and they are distinct from every other person. And that distinction, that diversity brings beauty and richness to our life. If everybody thought exactly the same way, if everybody preferred the exact same things, then maybe we think life would be easier. But in reality, the beauty, the richness, and even the benefit that we get from different opinions and different preferences would be lost. Even in biology, they say that genetic diversity is necessary for a species to thrive. And so if there is a population of any animal or anything in the world which is so small that it loses its genetic diversity, what happens is that the climate changes, the habitat changes, available foods change, and the population is not able to adapt. And so it might go extinct, or it might become endangered because there isn't diversity. Everybody has the same attributes. Everybody has the same physical features. Everybody has the same habits. And so when other requirements are found in the environment, that species, that organism is not able to adapt and change and survive or thrive. In the human world, biologically, and also societally and culturally, diversity is important. Sometimes in a family, many arguments that we have, they are because another person in the family, they see things in a different way. And so I think that if my children just saw everything the way I do, and they just listened to me and they just agreed with me, then everything would be easy. If my spouse didn't see things from a different perspective, they just agreed with me, then everything would be better. Life would be wonderful. But the reality is that when our parents tell us that you were doing this, there is something that you are not looking at. When our spouse tells us, when our children sometimes see things differently, we shouldn't think of that as a frustration or a problem or a loss. We should see that as an opportunity to discuss, and maybe they are wrong and they need to see things from a different perspective. Maybe we are wrong and we need to see things from a different perspective. And maybe neither person is wrong, but Allah has created some people to be disciplined and some people to be more merciful and flexible. And within a society and within a family, I cannot say to a community that, well, this is how I do things, and everybody needs to act and think in the exact same way. That might lose a very important part of what makes a family or a community successful. The important point is that we need to have those disagreements and those different perspectives with respect and humility. And so now if my parents correct me and I say they're backwards, they don't understand. That is not acceptable. But if I have a different way of seeing things, and I come with respect, with humility, and try to understand what they are saying, and they try to understand what I am saying, whether we reach agreement or we don't reach agreement is not the point. But we should have a respect and a readiness to discuss. So our society recognizes individual differences, sometimes better than our traditional cultures in the Muslim world. We have an expectation that if I am from a certain family, a certain khandan, then I should act and I should think and I should be in a certain way. And some people find those expectations to be very limiting, and they feel like they don't have any individual freedom. So this society, it reminds us that you are your own person. You are not just a member of a family or a tribe or a religion. You are an individual. Our society reminds us of this very much. But what it forgets is that although we are individuals, we are not just individuals. We also have a group identity. Some of those group identities are not better or worse than another. Some of us are men and some of us are women, or boys and girls. Neither one is better than the other. They are different creations of Allah. Some of us are born on this side of the Canadian border, and some of us are born on that side of the Canadian border. Both speak the same language, for the most part, eat the same foods or similar foods, watch the same shows, play the same sports. A lot of the culture is the same. But then there is a nationalism that people in the United States have, and they might think they're better than Canadians. And there is a nationalism that maybe some Canadians have, and they think that they are better than the United States. I've heard some Canadians say, for example, that the United States is an imperial power and Canada we're peace-loving. Now, there's much that can be said about that, and both of these countries, they were created from a very similar process of colonization and removal of native people from their lands. And sometimes one is a good cop and one is a bad cop, but they're both on the same team. But the point is that sometimes that group identity, it blinds us. I think that, well, at least I'm not as bad as that group. My country may have problems, but that country has more problems. And so nationalism is one of the ways, any country's nationalism, and I'm not talking about any country in particular, but it's one of the ways that people are blind to what they need to do better. There's so many problems, for example, in this country, but people say that we are not that country. And they think then that that gives them some kind of superiority, or it makes them forget that even if you don't have those problems, that doesn't mean that you should live with the problems that exist within your country. So there are some group identities. They're not better or worse. Allah gave them just for us to have diversity. Some people have black hair, some people have brown hair, some people have no hair. Some people have straight hair, some people have curly hair. Some people are tall, some people are short. Some people speak one language, some people speak another language. And all of these differences, they are not better or worse. Nor should we give too much attention to those kinds of identities. We shouldn't deny them because they are real and they are a gift from Allah. We shouldn't be embarrassed about our identity or hide it, just like we shouldn't be embarrassed about our family or hide our affiliation. But we shouldn't give too much credit to it. Then there are some group identities that are spiritually important. If you like football or baseball or basketball or none of them, and you may have fun watching or talking about that sport or that hobby with people who share your interests. But you can't say that your interest is better than somebody else's interest or worse than their interest. It's just a different personality. But your affiliation to Islam and your affiliation to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam, sallu ala Muhammad. This is not just a choice. That some people are Baptist and some people are Episcopalian and some people are Presbyterian and some people are Hindu and some people are Buddhist and some people are Jewish and some people are Muslim. No. Islam was not given to us like our language or our gender or our hair color or our eye color or our complexion or our preference for one kind of sport or hobby or another kind of hobby was given to us, and we don't have a whole lot of control or choice over it. Some people think that Islam is just like a national identity. Somebody is born Muslim and somebody is not born Muslim. That is not true Islam. When the Quran says, Inna ad-deena indallahi al-Islam, Allah is not saying that if you are lucky enough to be born Muslim, then you are going to heaven. And if you are unlucky enough to be born in another religion, then you're going to hell. Because Allah is just. Allah says, وَأَلَّيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. Nobody is going to get in the hereafter anything but what they earned. And the fact that I was born in a Muslim family is not something I earned. Or the fact that somebody was born in a non-Muslim family is not their fault. It's not something they earned. Neither should I get the credit for that, nor should they get a penalty for that. وَأَنْ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. What you earn is what you will get. So then, Inna ad-deena inda al-Islam, inda Allah al-Islam means what? It means that submission is the only deen. Not Islam as a label, but Islam as an action. Islam as a choice, that when I find out something is right, I submit. When I find out that I was wrong, I don't say, well, too bad. I'm going to keep doing what I have been doing. I am going to keep doing ma alfayna alayhi aba'ana, whatever my ancestors or my culture or my country or my friends. Before, people used to say, we'll do what our parents did. Today people will say that I can forgive or I can forget what my parents did, but I'm not going to abandon what my friends and my peers do. Everybody has a different loyalty group. Whether it be your parents and ancestors, whether it be your friends, whether it be your own personal preference, if you're going to keep doing it, whether it's right or wrong, then whatever my label might be, I am not Muslim. Because Allah says, Inna ad-deena indallahi al-Islam. The only path in the eyes of Allah is to submit. Meaning, to submit to the truth. This is why when Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam was asked, what is the border of Iman and Kufr? Or Iman and Shirk? The Imam said the difference between Iman and Kufr is that you take two things in your hand. If you've ever eaten dates, then you know there is a pit in the date. And that pit, it's usually long, but it can easily be mistaken for a pebble. And if you take a pebble in the other hand, أن تقول للحصاة إنها نواة أو للنواة إنها حصاة. Hasat is a pebble, and nawat is a date pit. If you see a date pit, you say, no, this is a pebble. Or you see a pebble and you say, this is a date pit. ثُمَّ تَدِينُ اللَّهَ بِهِ. Then you say, this is my deen. That person is a kafir. Now what is the Imam saying? In our normal speech, you know, when I say that I saw something on the ground, we don't even care to be that precise. Something was in my shoe, I was walking on it, it was bothering me, I took it out and I threw it away and somebody said, what was it? Maybe it was a date pit, I'll say it was a small stone. Not because I'm trying to lie, but because who cares? Whether it is a pit or whether it is a pebble. We don't even pay that much attention in our looking and in our thinking and in our speaking. But the Imam says when it comes to your iman, if you are going to compromise, if you are going to lie, if you are going to change things that because of my preference, I'm not going to submit to the truth, then you are not on the side of iman, you are on the side of kufr. Because iman requires Islam. And Islam means to follow what you know. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be ma'soom. But what you do know, you need to submit to it and not deny it. And that is the meaning of Islam. That is our identity. That is what binds me to all of you and all of you to me and to each other. That we don't always do it, but we try to submit and to follow the teachings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us through the Quran, through the sayings of Prophet Muhammad and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam, and through our heart and our intellect and our fitrah. Those things that Allah has guided us, we try to follow them and we submit. This is the most valuable identity that anybody can have. That I am bound to you not because we both enjoy football and we're going to watch a game together. That's fine. Not because we both like to read a certain book or watch a certain show, or because we both work in the same career and so this is now a club of real estate agents or attorneys or IT experts or any other career, but rather because you and I are bound by our commitment to certain values and principles. That creates an ummah. That creates an ummah. And when you have an ummah, then you have a collective identity, not just an individual identity. You keep your individual identity, and you are a person. But now your individual identity is honored because you are part of a group, and you are not just yourself. And when you are part of a group, then you honor the needs and the identity of that group. In this country, let's say that I want to have a new kind of Islam. And I say, I'm going to read the Quran. And you know what? I don't believe that pork is najis or haram. Back then, there were so many parasites and germs because pork was often from pigs that were dirty animals. But today, we're going to have a sanitary pig farm. No germs, no unhealthy food. It's going to be healthier than beef. And so, I'm a Muslim, but I'm going to just delete this one teaching about what you can eat. And I'm going to change the prayers because Fajr is so early. Back then, people didn't have electricity. And so now it's 9 p.m., it would be dark, people will sleep. Today, we have light and we have our phones. And so midnight is still early. So Fajr was good for those people who didn't have electricity. What are they going to do after 8? They have to wake up with dawn. But for us, maybe we can move Fajr just before you sleep, midnight. And I make a few other changes. And I go and I say I'm going to register this masjid in the name of Islam, and I'm going to apply for all of the tax benefits and other benefits that a masjid will have. There's no provision in our society and our law to say that do whatever you want, but you can't do it in the name of Islam. If I want to start that masjid with all of those wrong and devious teachings, nobody can stop me from calling it a masjid. If I'm using somebody else's copyright, then they can stop me from their copyright. So if I say I'm starting Shahe Najaf, then because that is the name and the property of an existing organization, that is a problem. But if I say that I am also a Muslim group, I just don't believe in the Islam that you believe in. I have all these different teachings. And maybe the Quran, I'm going to add some other scripture that I wrote to it. Nobody can stop me. Why? Because this society and its legal system and its social system doesn't recognize that Islam is not just whatever I want to claim it is for me, but rather it is the collective property of more than 1 billion Muslims. And not only the collective property of more than 1 billion Muslims, but it is also the heritage and the property of generations of Muslims who have come before and who will come later, and have given their lives and their tears and their blood and their sincerity and their time and their money to serve this religion. And it is the heritage of our Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam, and it is the property of Allah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So how can I just say that I'm going to wake up one day and say, I don't believe Islam has hijab? I don't believe that a little bit of alcohol is such a big deal. Who am I to now come and redefine Islam because I spent 20 minutes thinking about one topic? Or maybe 20 years thinking and researching about one topic. What is 20 years? Or 20 lifetimes? When we are talking about the collective heritage of humanity. And the real irony is that if there is a community park that only people from a neighborhood visit, 20 houses in your neighborhood, if they use a swing set and a pond and a picnic table, then society will say this is not your property, this is everyone's property. If your child or your pet makes a mess, clean it up. In your backyard, that's up to you. Unless you have a homeowners association that's going to create a problem there too. But at least in the privacy of your home, that's up to you. You want to paint your living room purple? That's up to you if you choose that color. I might not like it, but it's your living room. You choose that. But when you come to the park, then you can't paint the picnic tables your color because everybody's using it. Who's everybody? Maybe 20 houses. Maybe 10 houses. Maybe 1,000 people. So for physical property, society says no. If it belongs to everybody, you should respect it. You can't just come and do whatever you want. But which is more important? Physical property? The picnic table in my neighborhood park that only 20 people are going to use in a month? or the name of Islam and the honor of Islam and the identity of this religion that belongs to hundreds of millions of people now and in the past and in the future. Is the point clear that for physical property, a materialist society, a capitalist society says we have all these protections. You can be fined, you can be penalized, you can be banned, you can be in trouble for causing an inconvenience. But you want to just start your own masjid and completely challenge the very being of Islam? Well, nobody can stop you. That's your church, your masjid. This is somebody else's. Now, this is something that is wrong in a society and in a culture and in a system that recognizes individual identity, which it should. Islam is not fascist or totalitarian. You should recognize and respect all of the individual rights. But there is also a collective. There is also a group. And that collective is not just about shared physical property in land or buildings or intellectual property, but it is about shared spiritual property, and that is Islam, our heritage. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So when we come as Muslims, our success and failure is joint. Our fulfillment of our obligation or failure in our obligation is joint. This is why Imam Ali alayhi salam and our Imams they would give advice even to their enemies. In the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, there was a threat from the Persian Empire that had been in retreat, but it hadn't been defeated. They had been defeated in Iraq, but they had just gone back, and they could have gathered their forces and then attacked once again. And so the Caliph said that I am going to go and fight. Our soldiers will be more confident if they see their commander at the forefront. Now, of course, Imam Ali alayhi salam also knew the history of that commander, and there may have been many things that he didn't say, but that he knew. But as a general principle, even if you have a courageous commander, when the commander is there in the forefront, unless it is like Imam Ali in Siffin, he was at the forefront, but nobody dared to come and attack or even face Imam Ali. No one person and no group, but that's only Imam Ali. Otherwise, if you have a commander, even a brave commander, and the enemy knows that all you have to do is attack that one person and then their whole army will flee, then even if it's a desperate and a losing battle, they will still have a motivation to attack. So Imam Ali said, don't go and send reinforcements. That way the enemy will never come all together and unite and make a final push, because they will always fear that if they come back into Iraq, maybe another army is going to come from Hijaz. Maybe another army is going to come from the direction of Yemen or from somewhere, and they will still face attack. They will stay back. They will be in a state of fear. Why did Imam Ali give this advice to somebody who had oppressed Ahlul Bayt? Well, the question is wrong. Imam Ali wasn't giving advice to a person. Imam Ali was saving an ummah from attack and destruction. The question is not why did Imam Ali speak to one person. The issue is that Imam Ali was the Imam of the ummah. And when the ummah is going to be in difficulty, the Imam of the ummah will always save the ummah. Imam of the ummah is not going to say, well, I don't like this person, or this person is the wrong person, therefore I will let the ummah suffer. So for us as an ummah, our success and failure, our progress and our good and bad, that is shared. Kuntum khayra ummatin. We are an ummah. Ukhrijat linnas. We are for humanity. A Muslim should not just be for myself, but I should want to make life better for other people. And the way to do that is that when we see people who have different values, we don't always try to pressure them or convince them to make the same choice that we make, because they don't understand why we are making those choices. If I don't believe in the Quran, then it's logical for me to say, well, why should I not eat pork? Scientifically, I don't see a difference in the health. We avoid certain foods not because we're waiting for the latest study from Johns Hopkins University, but because we said whether the university understands or whether it hasn't understood, and maybe it'll understand in 50 years or 100 years or never. We do this and we don't do this because Allah has told us. If you don't know Allah, you don't believe in Allah, or you don't know the scripture of Allah, it makes sense for you to not understand that choice. But what we can still say to those people, or we can convey to those people, is that you should have good questions in your mind. A person who is friends with a Muslim should remember that we have to ask that question, are we here by coincidence or were we created? Is good and bad just what I feel? Or does good and bad exist independently of my emotions? Because good was created by God and bad was created by God. Am I just living in the moment? Or should I be thinking about what is going to happen to me after death? And should I be thinking about questions that are more important than just what am I going to eat today and what am I going to watch today and how am I going to have fun on the weekend? Now, if somebody's not a Muslim, when they think about that question, maybe they're not going to do ibadah because they don't know ibadah. But if they were just going to spend their entire life never even thinking, why am I here? Why do I exist? Where am I going? And they think about it, maybe they'll just value their family more because they love their children and they know that they're going to miss their parents at some time. That's one step better than the past. Not yet Iman, not yet Tawheed and Nubuwah and Qiyamah, but it's one step better. This is what the Quran says. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. Whenever you come in a gathering, then you want to make it one step better than it was before. And even among Muslims, sometimes there are Muslims who don't pray, who don't eat halal, who they have a very wrong conception of Islam or a wrong conception of Ahlul Bayt, or their practice is not ideal. When we come to Muslims also, then we want to help them become better. For some people, Islam is a hobby. For some people, Islam is entertainment. Sometimes you may even see this, that if they don't enjoy a majlis, then they will say that this wasn't a good majlis. Even if they learned a lot, and even if the message that was given was the message that is needed for society, it is my job and every speaker's job to try to make it understandable and enjoyable to the extent that we're able, but it's also a matter of human ability. The point, though, is that whether I am a speaker or I am a sponsor or I am a participant or any member of the community, the standard by which I measure our community and our programs is not, was it fun? Or was it widely attended? Inshallah, we should have fun with each other. And there is a halawa and a sweetness in ibadah that we should experience. But the standard that I have is not, was it fun or was it not fun? The standard should be, was it right or was it not right? And when I meet members of my community who don't have that standard, then how can I help them? Not by judging them, not by criticizing them, not by saying they're backwards, they're ignorant, they're less than me, not by separating myself. But kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. Come among the people and then help them see that which they don't see in a gentle way and in a nice way. And in reality, this is what brought Imam Hussein to Kufa. Do you know how many people said to Imam Hussein, don't go to Kufa? Today, inshallah, I want to bring you to the masa'ib of Lady Sakina. But let us start with why Imam Hussein embarked on that journey. How many people said in Medina, companions, well-wishers, family members, Kufa are the people who Imam Ali alayhi salam kept telling them, come and defend yourselves against Muawiyah, and they refused until Imam Ali was martyred. Imam Hassan tried to raise an army to defend Islam against Muawiyah, and he was attacked and injured, almost was assassinated. And now they are calling you, Yabna Rasulullah, they are going to do to you the same thing that they did to your father and they did to your brother. And what did Imam Hussein say? He said, I know. Where am I going? And I know who the people of Kufa are. But imagine that the whole world is ignoring Ahlul Bayt. And the people of Kufa, even with their ignorance, at least they know that Ahlul Bayt are right and Yazid is wrong. At least they have knowledge that Ahlul Bayt are guidance. Their heart, as Farazdaq said, is with Ahlul Bayt, even if their sword is not yet with Ahlul Bayt. Imam Hussein said, I will go because I need to guide and I need to reform that which has been destroyed by Muawiyah and by Bani Umayyah in the religion of my father, my grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is why Imam Hussein, he went to Iraq in the direction of Kufa, and why he came to Karbala, because he wanted to be present and he wanted to guide and reform and correct what was wrong in society. Imam Hussein could have said, as people told him, that they are not going to stay loyal. And so he could have said that I will stay in Medina, or I will go to Yemen, or I will go anywhere else. But he did not turn his back. And then when he came to Karbala, on the one side, Imam Hussein made military preparations. He said that we are going to put our back to hills. He had his companions dig a trench and fill that trench with dried wood. And then on the day of Ashura, they lit a fire so that no enemy could attack them from behind. They were only 72 soldiers. But the Imam's military preparations were so strong that the enemy was not able to attack. And it was not a quick battle. But it wasn't primarily the military. It was the spiritual preparation that was the most important thing in Karbala. Imam Hussein, time and time again, sent a message to the people of Kufa to remind them, who was he? Not because he was the grandson of the Prophet, but because he was the heir of the Prophet. He was the representative of the Prophet and Islam. And so Imam Hussein sent people like Habib to talk to the enemy. And the Imam sent people like Abbas alayhi salam to talk to the enemy. And then the Imam went himself, even after he had offered the most supreme sacrifice. In that final sermon the Imam gave, it was after he had brought the mutilated body of Ali Akbar, the brother of Sakina, whose musibah we remembered yesterday, back to the camp. After Imam Hussein had knelt by the body of Abbas, who died not far from the water of the Euphrates, after Imam Hussein had dug a very small grave for his 6-month-old child, Abdullah al-Radi, Ali al-Asghar, and buried him. After all of those tragedies, Imam Hussein came to the enemy and he said, I am the heir of Prophet Muhammad. Still, there is a chance. If you repent, then Allah can forgive. But don't destroy your hereafter by fighting me. And the enemy did not listen. And so the Imam came to the tent for a farewell. And he said, Ya Zainab, Ya Kalthum, Ya Ruqayya, Ya Sakina, alaykunna minni salam. And in that farewell, all of the women folk, they gathered around Imam Hussein. They wept. And then there was one small girl who stood a little bit away. And she hid her tears. And maybe that was because she knew how much Imam Hussein loved her. She didn't want him to see her crying. And so Imam Hussein, he went to Lady Sakina and he said to her, my daughter, I have come to bid farewell to you. And Lady Sakina, she looked up, she said, Ya abate astaslamta lil maut? Oh father, are you now resigned to dying, to death? And Imam Hussein said that, oh my beloved daughter, if somebody is alone, surrounded by their enemy, and they have no one to help them, then what choice do they have other than death? And it is here that it is sometimes said that Lady Sakina said, Father, I will bid you farewell. But before we arrived in Karbala, news came that my uncle Muslim had died, and you called my beloved cousin, the daughter of Muslim, and you showed her kindness that you show to orphans. Father, I know that when I will be an orphan, there will be nobody to hug me. Oh Father, hug me as you hugged the daughter of Muslim ibn Aqil, so I can have that memory in my heart. Imam Hussein, he hugged his daughter and she began to cry. And Imam Hussein, it is reported, said that, O Sakina, there will be many nights when you will cry. Don't cry so long as your father is alive. Imam Hussein bid farewell to Sakina, and she honored her promise. All through the dark nights in Kufa and Sham, Lady Sakina did not cry. When Imam Zainul Abidin was watching, Lady Sakina did not cry. When Lady Zainab was watching, after everyone had gone to sleep, that is when Lady Sakina now would shed tears and call out to her father, Oh my father, let me tell you what happened after you were martyred. There was no one to offer us comfort or consolation or bring water to the thirsty lips of the children. Enemy soldiers came. They attacked our tents. They took our veils and our scarves and what possessions we had, and we didn't know which way to flee in the darkness of the night, saying such Lady Sakina would fall asleep in the dungeon. Every night, Imam Zain al-Abidin would come and he would see that Lady Sakina is becoming weaker. She is becoming less and less able to withstand the hardship, until a time came when Imam Zain al-Abidin came to Lady Zainab and he said, "Oh my Aunt Zainab, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I offer my condolences to you that we have another martyr in captivity. Come with me as I dig a grave in this dungeon so that we can bid farewell to our beloved. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. ماتم حسین.
کیسی یہ جفا ہے، 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 بے شیر کا قد چھوٹا ہے اور تیر بڑا ہے، کیسی یہ جفا ہے، کیسی کیسی یہ جفا ہے، کیسی بے شیر کا قد چھوٹا ہے اور تیر بڑا ہے، کیسی یہ بے شیر کا قد چھوٹا ہے اور تیر بڑا ہے، کیسی انسان اگر تھے تو اسے پانی پلاتے، انسان اگر تھے تو اسے پانی پلاتے، بچے پہ کبھی اتنا بڑا ظلم نہ ڈھاتے، بچے پہ کبھی اتنا بڑا ظلم نہ ڈھاتے، اے فوج ستمگار بتا کیا یہ روا ہے، بے شیر کا قد چھوٹا ہے اور تیر بڑا ہے، کیسی بے شیر کا قد چھوٹا ہے اور تیر بڑا ہے. یہ ظلم ہوا ہے نا دوبارہ کبھی ہوگا. یہ ظلم ہوا ہے نا دوبارہ کبھی ہوگا. خود اپنے لہو میں ہی نہائے کوئی بچہ, خود اپنے لہو میں ہی نہائے کوئی بچہ. تاریخ میں ایسا کبھی دیکھا نہ سنا ہے, بے شیر کا قد چھوٹا ہے اور تیر بڑا ہے. سی یہ جفا کیسی یہ بچہ ہے یہ 6 ماہ کا اور تشنہ بھی. بچہ ہے یہ 6 ماہ کا اور تشنہ بھی. لب خشک ہے اور پیاس سے ایٹھی ہے زباں بھی. اے بانی شر سوچ ذرا رحم کی جائے, بے شیر کا قد چھوٹا ہے اور تیر بڑا ہے. تاریخ کے سینے پہ سدا داغ رہے گا. تاریخ کے سینے پہ سدا داغ رہے گا. یہ ایسا ستم ہے جو چھپائے نہ چھپے گا. یہ ایسا ستم ہے جو چھپائے نہ چھپے گا. مقتل میں ہے ارباب مقاتل نے لکھا ہے, بے شیر کا قد چھوٹا ہے اور تیر بڑا ہے. پامالی عباس اور قاسم ہے نظر میں, امام حسین کی نظر کی بات, کہ پامالی عباس اور قاسم ہے نظر میں. برچھی کی انی دیکھی ہے اکبر کے جگر میں. برچھی کی انی دیکھی ہے اکبر کے جگر میں. ایک باپ یہ منظر بھی کھڑا دیکھ رہا ہے, بے شیر کا قد چھوٹا ہے اور تیر بڑا ہے. کیسے بے شیر کا قد چھوٹا ہے اور تیر بڑا ہے. یا حسین
یا حسین یا حسین ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں پتراں دیا لاشاں دے ٹکڑے ریا لب دیا وچ سہراواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں صبر دے مالک نو سین لیلا کے اذن جے دے تے میں صبر دی سانج چ اکبر دے سینے چو سانگ ہٹاواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں آنکھیں ماں قاسم دی ماں تے احسان کری دیر تائیں لڑدا روی تیرے ٹکڑے مطابق ودنیا نے میرے ویر حسین دی ساواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں جدو قیدی ہو کے لنگیاں مقتل چوں وین زینب کیتا لاشا ول ماواں نہ ویکھن کتے رک نہ جاون ساواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں سین زینب نے کہا کھول عابد اکھیاں جیتے ساواں رکھیاں مینو شام غریباں دے ویلے دے گا کون سلاواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں وین کلثوم داسی لال من کے غازی تینو میں پالے اسی میرے سر دی چادر بھی لت گئی جدو لتیاں تیری اباواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں شمر دے خنجر دے وار زہرا رو کے نال حسین کوے میں چکیاں پیس کے پالیا سی کیویں ہاتھ گردن تو چاواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں 14 صدیاں ہویاں فاطمہ دی نواں اللہ جل پڑھ دیاں سکلین اجے بھی تک دیا نے او مہدی پتر دی راواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں آکے ماں قاسم دی ماں تے احسان کری دیر تائیں لڑدا روی تیرے ٹکڑ مطابق بدنیا نے میرے ویر حسین ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں پتراں دیا لاشاں دے ٹکڑے رہیا لب دیا وچ صحراواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں ماواں کربلا دیا ماواں یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین حق امام یا حسن یا حسین حق امام یا حسن یا حسین پیر کی وہ لاڈلی شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی سینے پہ جو شاہ کے پلی جس کی ابابن میں جلی تماچوں کے نشان مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام على علي أمير المؤمنين السلام على فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة أجمعين السلام على علي بن الحسين زين العابدين السلام على محمد بن علي الباقر السلام على جعفر بن محمد الصادق السلام على موسى بن جعفر الكاظم السلام على علي بن موسى الرضا السلام على محمد بن علي الجواد السلام على علي بن محمد الهادي السلام على الحسن بن علي الزكي العسكري السلام على الحجة بن الحسن القائم المهدي صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين
صلی علی محمد مومنین چہلم کے مجالس کے سلسلے میں اعلان جمعے سے 24 سپتمبر سے 5 روزہ مجالس کا یہاں پہ آغاز ہوگا جس سے جناب مولانا شاہد میسم صاحب جن کا تعلق علی گڑھ انڈیا سے ہے وہ آ کے خطاب فرمائیں گے تو آپ لوگوں سے شرکت کی استدعا ہے باآواز بلند صلوات